Welcome to Journey In, a show that aims to offer you new and expanding perspectives when it comes to defining your spirituality. These days, more and more of us are craving a deeper connection to something bigger than ourselves. I created this show to not only share about my personal journey, but to create a space to have conscious conversation around different spiritual modalities, health and wellness trends, and to hear from spiritual thought leaders so that we can come together and respect one another despite our spiritual beliefs and differences. At the end of the day, a spiritual journey is a homecoming to who you really are, and you get to define what that path looks like. It can be messy, hard, and confusing. We're going to journey through it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm your host, Jess, and let's journey in. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the pod. So we are, at the time of this recording, I am recording this in Gemini season. So Gemini season, according to the 13 sign system, goes until approximately July 16th. So we're still in Gemini season. I wanted to do a little recap of Gemini season and also just bring how I have been working with each season onto the podcast, each zodiac season, because this is something that I've been doing with my subscribers on my email list. So if you're on my email list, you definitely know what I'm talking about. But I have been walking my subscribers and myself, honestly, through the 13 sign system zodiac seasons in real time ever since Aries season. Aries is the start of the zodiac, no matter what season you're using or what system you're using. And so for 13 sign astrology, that was back in April. And it's really interesting because I've just been noticing the way that I've been working with astrology. It hasn't been doing like forecasts or predictive astrology. I find that actually triggers the fuck out of my nervous system when, I don't know, I used to tune into forecasts that astrologers would do, and they would give like predictions and everything of what's going to happen for you in Gemini season. And then I would start to get this like expectation of how the season was going to turn out for me and what was going to happen. And it would really pop me out of my reality. And so I was actually talking to one of my friends about this, Lily, and I was telling her, I was like, I just don't like forecasts. And she was like, yeah, I never listen to forecasts. And, she was saying she takes a more reflective approach with seasons and whatnot. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love that. And that is what I have adapted ever since I have really been sitting with 13 sign astrology and also working with it and guiding clients through their own charts. And that's really the whole point of my email list too, which has been so much fun for me. I feel like with every single season, I really just sit with what's going on. I have not really sent out an email at the actually, no, I do send out emails at the beginning, and I give kind of a taste of what you can look to in your chart, how that season or which area of life, which is represented by the houses. I always type something out so that you can see which area of life may be most impacted or where you can work with that energy in the coming season. So it's not like a forecast. It's more so like, this is how you can work with the energy based on your astrology chart, and you can take it or leave it. So that's really fun. But then I always just sit and I reflect on how the season has been feeling for me. And I always learn something new. It's pretty cray. So I wanted to share that with you guys today, do a little recap on Gemini season, and just kind of give you guys some insights into what I've been feeling and how that's reflected in my chart. Because again, I just think this is so crazy, and it's just been so fun because I just feel like I've been really sitting with each zodiac season. And I've said this before, but I feel like with the 13 sign system, it feels like it moves at a much slower pace than Western astrology. And so I just encourage you, if you're listening to this, and you're still, really tuned into Western astrology and Western astrological forecasts and whatnot, really just tune into like what you're actually feeling, and see what comes up. So we're doing a little recap of Gemini season according to the 13 sign system. So Gemini season in 13 sign astrology is approximately June 20th to approximately July 16th. I say approximately because in the 13 sign system, things always shift and change, or the seasons rather, the zodiac seasons shift and change maybe about a day or two every year. And this is because of precession of the equinoxes, which I talked about. Basically, it accounts for, things not staying the exact same every single year. But for the most part, it just varies maybe like a day or two, year to year, if that. Anywho, so Geminis. We all know a Gemini in our life. They're the ones who love to socialize. They know the tea on everybody. Like, if you're listening to this, you're probably thinking about a friend who knows the tea on everyone, who loves to talk about everyone. And yeah, gossip is a thing for a lot of Geminis. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just being real. They just love to chat. I mean, they're an air sign. All of the air signs, they really love to embody communication in some way. It's like words of affirmation are a love language for Geminis and other air signs. Okay. I remember when I first started podcasting, I felt so lost in the sauce, so overwhelmed. I literally did not know how to edit anything. And I know so many people want to start a podcast of their own, but they have no idea how to get started. So that's why I want to tell you guys about Riverside. Riverside is a one-stop shop for all things podcasting. I use it for everything. Not only can you record high quality audio and video content directly on their platform, so yes, you can say goodbye to Zoom calls and easily edit each episode, but it also uses AI to auto-generate your show notes and provide you with high quality video clips to post to your social accounts, which is such a time saver. So it has been my go-to. It has saved me when it comes to all things podcasting and has just made things so easy and effortless. So if you already have a podcast of your own or you're thinking of starting one, check out Riverside using my referral link, which I will provide in the show notes, and the code JOURNEY at checkout will get you 15% off. So again, you have to use my referral link, which is in the show notes, and the code JOURNEY, JOURNEY, will get you 15% off of your subscription. Podcasting does not have to be overwhelming, and I trust me when I say it is easier than it seems. So happy podcasting. And so, yeah, you probably know a Gemini in your life. I'm thinking of one right now. Like, they're just so great and they're so fun to be around. It's like everybody loves to be around them. Like they're the people that are friends with like everybody. They're the people that, they walk into a room and like they can just bop around to everyone and be like, "Hey, what's up? Oh my gosh, hi," and they just get along with everyone. And it's like, wow, okay, great. And they're also usually really intelligent. They love to learn. They love to use their mind. They love to lean on logic. It's very Gemini to lean into learning and to want to learn and grow more, usually through like actual school. Like Geminis love to go back to school. They love, maybe growing up, they really thrived in school. It's a very communication forward sign, and it carries the archetype of a butterfly, which is, there's many archetypes of Gemini: the shapeshifter, the teacher, but the one that I love the most is the butterfly. And it's just, the idea behind that is that the butterfly just goes around from flower to flower, like taking in all that it can. And that's very representative of Gemini. Like they love to take in a ton of information. And if you're familiar with human design, it's kind of similar to a manifesting generator. Like they love to just take in a bunch of different information. They love to express themselves in a bunch of different ways. They're so curious. And they often have like a lot of different curiosities. And so that's why like people with their midheaven, which represents career, for example, in Gemini, something that I always mention is like you are really meant to embody all of your curiosities in your career. And it doesn't really need to make sense. They don't all need to be connected, but it's likely that you're super curious about a lot of different things that you want to teach on and share. And you're really meant to do that. That is such a Gemini thing. And so, yeah, it's a very open-minded and curious sign and energy, and it's very fun. And Geminis love to seek new experiences. They're playful, they're really quick thinking, and it's like the sign of a million questions. And as with any sign, there's shadows, there's fears, and some shadows of Gemini are maybe being inconsistent or being seen as inconsistent or flaky. And this is just because they love to shift and change a lot. And they have so many different things that catch their attention, so many different people that catch their attention. So sometimes they can be seen as like a little shallow too, just because they tend to like to not go super, super, super deep. They like to keep things a little more, not surface level, but like playful. And if you're watching the video of the thumbs up sign, I don't know what just happened. But they like to keep things more playful with people. They like to just make connections with people, and they don't have to be these like super deep, intense connections. They can be like, hey, like, let's just go, let's have coffee or let's grab drinks. And like, they're that friend that you can basically call up at any time. And like, they're like, yeah, I'm down. Let's go. Let's party, whatever. It's a very fun energy. So that's just kind of a brief synopsis on Gemini. And I don't know, for me, it's hard to speak directly on Gemini because I don't have any placements in my chart in Gemini. And so I have an empty house in my chart. And people always, whenever they look at their charts, they're like, oh, if there's an empty house, they're like, oh, I just don't have anything in that sign, or that area of life just doesn't pertain to me. And it's like, no, actually, we all have a little bit of every single zodiac energy in our chart. No matter what our planetary placements are, we all have every single zodiac energy in our chart. They just express themselves in very different ways. And the planetary placements that we have are what we feel and express the most. But when we have an empty chart, or an empty house rather, and an empty zodiac sign in our chart, meaning there's no placements there, no planets there, we can actually look to the ruler of that zodiac sign, where that is in our chart. And that is how we unlock the energy of an empty house. So I'm going to explain this through my own chart, because I noticed this just in my personal experience. Because as I was sitting to write my Gemini email when we were shifting into Gemini season, I was like, tuning into the energy of Gemini. And I was like, Gemini is such a lighthearted, it's a fun energy, it's a curious energy, it's a playful energy, it's a social energy. And it makes so much sense that like it's in the middle of summer, right? Summer is when we want to get out there, we want to socialize, we want to have fun. We don't want to work, like we want to play. And so it just made so much sense. But I was going through so much massive transformation that just felt like really heavy. And I was like, oh, I just feel like such a density. And I have been for the past few months, especially having come out of Taurus season, which Taurus is definitely a much more grounded, can be like a much more heavier energy, a little bit more of a serious energy. But I was like, I am just not feeling this like playful, lighthearted energy personally. And I was like, I wonder why. And so I looked to my chart and I was like, okay, so Gemini in my chart, I have no placements there. It's an empty house. It's an empty zodiac sign. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to look to the ruler of Gemini in my chart and see if that tells me anything. And so the ruler of Gemini, the planetary ruler that influences it, is Mercury. And Mercury governs how we speak, how we think, and how we learn. Okay. Again, all themes of like air signs, communication. And so I looked to it in my chart and I was like, okay, I have Mercury in my third house, which is the house of early learning. It's also the house of communication. It's actually the house that is traditionally ruled by Gemini in the chart. So Mercury is very comfortable in the third house. And when we say that, like when astrologers say, oh, that this planet is very comfortable there or this planet is very uncomfortable there, it's because every single house has traditionally, when we're not looking at somebody's original birth chart, when we're just looking at the natal zodiac wheel, it always starts with Aries, okay? And then it goes Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and so on. And so Aries usually rules the first house, Taurus usually rules the second, Gemini the third, Cancer the fourth, and so on. If you guys want me to go deeper into that in another episode, I can. But in this instance, so Gemini traditionally rules the third house, and I have my Mercury in the third house. So my Mercury is very comfy in the third house. And what that means is that I love to communicate. And usually the third house really represents communication and expression, but by means of like writing, speaking, and also early on learning in life. It usually represents like how you learned early in life, like elementary school and whatnot. But when I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense, because usually people that have a lot of planetary placements in the third house, they usually write books, or they have a blog maybe, or they write in some way. Like they're usually just natural writers. And they also like to public speak usually. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like I have my email list, which I love doing. I love writing for my email list. And I have my podcast. I've been podcasting, for a few years now, and I love it. And I was like, so this makes so much sense. But also, I have Pluto directly conjunct, like literally on top of my Mercury. And conjunct just means like next to. But mine are literally on top of each other. And so what that means is that these energies, the energy of Pluto and the energy of Mercury, work together. They kind of fight for attention, and they're going to like directly impact one another. Pluto is the planet of transformation. It's the planet of death and rebirth. It's associated with Scorpio. It's a very intense energy. And I also have my Mercury in my natal chart. It's retrograde. So what that means is that it was retrograde at the time I was born. You can see this in your chart if there's an R next to any of the planets. And from a spiritual perspective, looking at any retrograde planets in your chart, that usually speaks to a karmic lesson that you came here to learn and rewrite in this lifetime. Okay, and so for me, I'm looking at my own chart and I'm like, okay, this tells me that I am here to, like, there's definitely going to be lessons for me in how to use my voice to speak my truth, and help me change and transform, paired with that Pluto energy, right? And both of these are in my third house of Libra. Okay, Libra is the relationship sign. Okay, it's like Leo is all about me, Libra is all about we. It's literally the sign of like, it's such a relationship oriented house, or not house. It's such a relationship oriented sign. And I mean, there are many other aspects of Libra as well, but I'm just going to focus on what's relevant to my experience right now. And so as I was looking at this, I was like, okay, so I'm looking to Mercury because it's the planetary ruler of Gemini, and Gemini sits empty in my natal chart, my birth chart. So I'm looking to Mercury, and it's directly conjunct Pluto, and I have karmic lessons there that I need to learn, and it's all through relationships. And it's in my third house, which speaks to like writing projects, communication projects, all the things. So, anyways, I just I was like, this is crazy. Like, because I was going through such an intense transformation within some of my closest relationships, just noticing like what was working, what wasn't, and noticing where I was people pleasing, because Libra is one of the shadows of Libra is people pleasing. And I had noticed that I was really people pleasing in a way of just like being scared to say how I really felt, what I really wanted. And that's something I've experienced my whole life. I'm sure a lot of us experience it, but it was coming up a lot for me in the past few months. And, I just I realized it, and I had to like really call myself out on it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not really like saying how I feel. And so, because I was scared, I didn't know how it would impact the other people involved. And, anyways, I ended up just being really honest with myself, with everyone that I needed to be honest with, and communicated really truthfully how I was feeling in certain areas of my life. And it ended up being so like transformative for me. It felt like I was just really stepping into like empowerment around using my voice, which is like such a karmic lesson that I came here to learn with my Mercury being retrograde, especially in relationships. And none of this is bad. This is all like good things that have been happening. And alongside that, my before I was doing Journey In, well, I had started Journey In, and then I started co-hosting my previous podcast, Sisterhood of the Rose, with one of my dear friends. And, we had also decided that ultimately, we were going to complete that project and focus on our own individual paths, which was not a bad thing. It ended up with a lot of love, and Lily and I are still really close friends. And, but we just decided, and we just kind of realized like that it was best for us to just pursue our own individual paths. And so going through that, it was something that, I could feel needed to happen, but it was still really intense. It was like hard. It was like, it was an ending, and endings are all like, they're good, but there's also like, you're going to feel things around that. And so I was going through this, like, it just felt like this, like all this change and all of this like rebirth, stepping into using my voice more and in ways that made me really uncomfortable, and like just really stating how I felt, which again is something like that I've struggled with my whole life. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I just feel like I'm transforming, but it didn't feel like a light and fluffy butterfly energy for me. Like I was like, what the fuck? Why? I thought Gemini season was supposed to be light and fun and chill. And then it just clicked. I was like, oh my God, this is so wild to me. And so, anyways, I hope all that makes sense. But that's how Gemini season for me, that's how I've really unlocked the energy of Gemini season. And now I have been feeling the light, the playfulness. I've been wanting to socialize more. I've been like wanting to be out of the house. I'm like so much happier. Like I went through it and like really leaned into those energies of, my Mercury and my Pluto, and like what was really asking to be changed there. And I genuinely truly feel so much lighter. And I'm just like, holy shit. And I was making all of these connections. And I was just like, this is so, so wild to me. So if you have an empty house and an empty zodiac sign in your chart, know that you can still unlock the energy of that sign. And I would say like only really do this if, the area of life that it governs is like an area of life that you really want to focus on. For example, like your seventh house being like, your house of one-on-one relationships. That's just a very common one that people, if they want to call in a partner, or if they want to like improve their relationship, romantic life, then you can look to, what zodiac sign predominantly rules that house. And then you can look to the ruling planet of that zodiac sign and see where it is in your chart. So it's really cool. Like all of these different ways. That's how you can really use astrology as a tool and like work with it and be like, oh, okay, like how can this help me? How can I really work with this to just create the life that I desire? And again, always do what feels right. And for me, I've just been taking a more reflective approach with astrology, and that's been feeling so good for me. And so, I would encourage you guys to do that as well. Like, don't force anything with this. I think that that's really, really important with astrology, is to like just not force anything to be something that it's not. Let your life play out and like see how that ties into your chart. And that's just what I've been doing. And it's been just so wild to me. I don't know if I'm going to uncover things like this all the time in my chart every single zodiac season, but there's always something. And I just feel like I've been learning so much about the zodiac seasons as I've been like really sitting with them in real time according to the 13 sign system. Again, it just feels, I've said this before, but it just feels so, this system just feels so grounding to me. It feels so like rooted in like, oh, okay, the present. It feels so embodied. And so I hope that you guys get to experience that too. And if you have any questions about your chart, you guys can email the show, and I'm going to be doing like monthly episodes where I'm just going to answer listener Q&A on the podcast, and I'll keep it anonymous, but I'm going to answer questions on the podcast for you guys. And the reason why I want to do this is because I actually am no longer offering one-on-one astrology readings. And so I really wanted to create a way to still be able to engage with you guys and give you insights into your chart. And this just feels like the best way to do that. So you guys can email in the show any questions that you might have. It can literally be anything about your astrology chart. Or if you have any other questions for me too, that's fine. I can answer those as well. But email the show. I'll put the link in the show notes, and I would love to answer those for you. And I also have one offering that I just revamped called Your 13 Sign Evolution. And this is a written report. It's a fully customized written report of your sun sign, your moon sign, your rising sign, and your north and south nodes, which speak to your purpose in this life beyond your career. So this is going to be something that is fully customized and written out by me, based on your individual unique chart. So I'll put all the information for that in the show notes as well. But those are the ways that I can help you and I can support you in deepening into your 13 sign chart. And this is just, I'm just so excited. It's just so much fun for me to be able to do this for you guys and to chat with you guys. So again, if you have any questions or want to just share if you got anything out of this episode, please let me know. If you want to join my email list, it's where I go deep. Again, my email list feels like a diary. So if you want to get in on all the tea, join the email list. Link will be in the show notes. All right, you guys, until next time.